Welcome to our session today on what to expect as a CCAP candidate, a National Community Action Partnership webinar event. My name is Mitzi Hubbard, the CCAP Program Administrator with the National Community Action Partnership. I'll be running the behind-the-scenes technology for this session. Today's presentation will be led by Tani Stottlemyre, the Project Director, CCAP and Excellence Expansion with the National Community Action Partnership. This webinar will be recorded and will be made available to you on the National Community Action Partnership's website under the Resource Library within the next 2 days. Please note that you will be muted for this presentation, but you should be able to hear us out your computer speakers. If you lose audio any time during the presentation, please click Switch to Phone Audio on the bottom left-hand corner next to the microphone icon where it says Mute. You can also call in to the session using the teleconference number located at the bottom of your confirmation email. You can send any technical questions you may have to me directly in the chat box. Please feel free to send any content-related questions that you may have for our presenter in through the chat box throughout the duration of the presentation. If your question in the chat box is not answered during the session, then we will try to answer through follow-up emails. If you get disconnected and need to contact me, I can be reached at mhubbard@communityactionpartnership.com. Please join me as we recite the Community Action Promise. Community action changes people's lives, embodies the spirit of hope, improves communities, and makes America a better place to live. We care about the entire community, and we are dedicated to helping people help themselves and each other. On that note, I would like to introduce to you Tani Stottlemyre, our host for today's presentation on what to expect as a CCAP candidate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mitzi. Welcome, everyone. We are thrilled to have you with us today. I know that some people in our audience have already earned their CCAP credentials, and others of you are interested in becoming CCAPs. So regardless of which category you sit in, it is safe to say that all of you are here to learn about the certification processes that have been put in place by the CCAP Commission. And our presentation today has been designed to meet both interests. So as we review the agenda, I want to provide you with an advance notice that in just a few moments, I'm going to ask you to type something into the chat box. I'm going to ask you why you are interested in becoming a CCAP, earning your CCAP credential. And if you're already a CCAP, I'm going to ask you to add to the chat by entering what your reasons or reason was when you first decided to pursue certification. So please be thinking about that as I briefly go over today's agenda. We're going to start with, so you want to be a CCAP, after which it becomes important to clarify that the CCAP program is continually evolving and it's a set of processes that are continually updated. The credential was established in 1993, which was 30 years ago. And what we talk about today is going to look and feel a little different to those who have been through the program. So it's safe to say that this is not your former ED's CCAP process, and I'll tell you why as we go through today's agenda. From there, we'll take a step back and look at a step-by-step at the application and enrollment process, as well as what you can expect from our examination processes. And throughout the webinar, I will mention various tips and resources. So towards the end of our time together, we will review those key resources that CCAP candidates really should be aware of. From there, I want to make sure that we have addressed as many of your questions as we can today about becoming a certified community action professional. And if time allows, I will try to highlight what is required to renew certifications. But I want to make sure we get those enrollment and exam process questions answered first. So you can see we have a lot to cover. Let's dive in to the first part of, so you want to be a CCAP. This is the point where I'm going to ask you to type into the chat, share with us what it is that's motivating you, or as I said earlier, if you already are a CCAP, what it was that motivated you to enroll. I'm going to pull up my chat screen so I can see some of those responses. I see learning more, have a better understanding, increase knowledge, further my professional knowledge, new to my role. Oh, good. Be a better professional. I love that. Oh, you guys are really good. Not a cricket audience at all. You are in there and participating. Thank you for that. So learning, gain more knowledge, get deeper into my understanding, be an advocate for community action. That's awesome. All right, please keep putting those in there because we are capturing them and saving them from today's chat. And for those of you that are thinking about becoming credentialed, it's a great opportunity to read what others are putting in there, and especially folks who've already become CCAPs, to see what it was that motivated them as well. So let's review for just a moment what's intended by professional certification. I collected just a few definitions that we have used, that some of our certification organizations around the nation use, and I have them here on the screen for you. Certification is an attestation of an individual's level of knowledge and proficiency in a certain industry or profession. A professional certification aims to recognize the knowledge, skills, and competencies that professionals have already accumulated. And professional certification is the process by which a person proves that he or she has the knowledge, experience, and skills to perform a specific job. So we're talking about an attestation of knowledge and proficiency, recognition of knowledge, skills, and competencies, proof of knowledge, experience, and skills, right? Just 3 definitions that are available, but you see the similarities there. What you do not see in any of those definitions is this: training. You don't see certification designed or defined as a training program. Why is that? Because professional certification is a test of what you already know and can do. Certification is a test of what you already know and can do. CCAP is an evaluation program, a testing and assessment program. The CCAP program itself does not offer or provide you with training to help you learn more or do your job better. And yet, quite frequently, people say they want to get involved in the CCAP program because they want to learn more about community action. And people who have gone through the process and attained the CCAP credential, they say that it was one of the best professional development experiences of their entire careers. So that's an interesting contradiction. How can that be if it's not designed as a training program? And yet people tell us that's what they seek out of it and that's what they get out of it. I think the answer is simple, really. The answer is that for most people, the actual testing is just the final stop in reaching a targeted destination. The journey of learning and work experiences the journey that culminates in the exam is something that each candidate builds for themselves. And I'll be the first to tell you that the certification process is actually pretty simple. You enroll, you turn in some answers to some questions, you pass a written exam, and boom, you're certified. But it is your experience becoming a CCAP. It's what you make of it. With that in mind, we have some tips to offer you, especially those of you who are deciding if you're ready to enroll. But please remember, this journey is what you make of it. We'll assess your knowledge and ability to apply that knowledge, but you have to put in the part where it comes to learning that information. So tip number 1 is to fully understand your why. Give yourself the gift of dedicated time to think about why you want to attain the CCAP credential. More time than I gave you today at the top of this webinar. Articulate what it will mean to you personally, and also identify how being credentialed will help you pursue your professional goals. Being clear about that, clarifying your goals, will help you gain support for your candidacy, and we find it helps you stay on track, right? So tip number 2 is talk to CCAPs. There are over 800 active CCAPs in our network right now, and all of us, every single one of us, share an ethical commitment to help you succeed in becoming a CCAP. Tap into their knowledge. Ask for advice and an understanding of what becoming and being a CCAP has meant to them. It's almost always helpful, right, to talk to others who have a shared experience with you and who can provide insights. And if you'd like to take a more formal approach, NCAP's CCAP team can suggest CCAPs who have agreed to serve as mentors, who will share their experience and advice with you. So understand your why, talk to CCAPs, build your support team. The journey of becoming a CCAP is really enhanced and best experienced with the support of leaders and coworkers at your organization. So we really encourage you, talk with your CEO, and if you are the executive director, talk with your board chair. Share your vision with them and with your colleagues and ask for their support, right? The more support you have, the more on track you will stay with your goal of becoming certified. And knowing who shares your enthusiasm not only is going to bolster your commitment, but can also help you identify up front those folks that you're going to ask to be references for your CCAP application. So build your support team. Read the book. Read the Community Action Body of Knowledge. It's not really a book. We just sort of joke about it because its initials are BOK. Just a few months ago, I defined the professional certification as a process for assessing an individual's knowledge and the ability to apply that knowledge in a specific job or profession. But before we can assess someone on what they know about the job, we first have to understand what the job entails, right? We need a job description, something that defines the core competencies necessary for doing that work. The community action body of knowledge is that job description. It defines and outlines those core competencies that an individual really needs to know about and successfully implement to be effective in community action. The document outlines, it's about 10 pages long, those core competencies required to be a successful steward of the community action mission, our legacy, and its promise. And it's framed in 5 distinct categories. You see those here on your screen. The history of the community action movement, vision and values of the movement, traditional management skills, leadership in community action, and theories that encompasses the causes of poverty and strategies and approaches to address those causes. So the CCAP exam and the process is rooted in the body of knowledge. Thoughtful consideration as you look at that about your own knowledge and skills and experience as they relate to that body of knowledge will help you understand where you need to deepen awareness or skill to be prepared for the examination. Since the exam is rooted here, that's where you want your knowledge and experience to be rooted as well. All right, let's head back to tips. Tip number 5, craft your learning plan. Identify your goals for expanding your knowledge, just like we just talked about, and your ability to apply that knowledge within those 5 sections of the body of knowledge. Outline the training and the coaching and the experiences that you will pursue and the sources that you will access to get that experience. For example, you might recognize that you need to know more about the history of the community action movement. So you decide to attend a history of community action session offered at maybe your state association's annual conference. Or maybe you know that you need a little more knowledge and firsthand experience understanding the relationship of the board to community action staff and the executive director. So you plan some intentional reading on the responsibilities of the board, and maybe also work with your executive director to get more exposure on how the board operates, right? Crafting a learning plan, knowing where you need the knowledge, and knowing where you'll get it. Perhaps you feel reasonably comfortable in most areas of the body of knowledge, but you want to pursue some targeted learning by participating in one of the many volunteer CCAP study groups that are available for CCAP candidates. Setting out your learning plan is exactly what I referenced earlier when I said the journey to certification is what you decide to make of it. It's an essential and valuable part of the work. CCAPs that are with us today, I'm going to press on you one more time and ask you to please share in that chat window any recommendations that you have for ways that candidates can build their core knowledge and competencies. What did you find helpful as you were building up those knowledge areas, those experiences? Please share those tips and ideas. Okay. Tip number 6, define and commit to a time frame. CCAP candidates have 3 years to pass the CCAP examination process. So once you submit your application, your candidacy remains valid for 3 years. Have an idea of how you want to approach each step of the certification process within that 3-year time frame. That can really help you plan ahead and feel confident that you're following a schedule that works for you rather than having the burden of a schedule put upon you. So define your time frame, commit to it. We'll talk about time frame a little bit more later in the presentation. Tip number 7, it's the easiest one to do, enroll. Once you've decided you're ready, first step is to submit that enrollment application. There's really no place to begin like the beginning. So those are the tips. Fully understand your why, talk to CCAPs, build your support team, review the body of knowledge, craft your own learning plan, define and commit to a time frame, and then get that enrollment started. Now, I want to address that pesky little asterisk that you've probably noticed on the tip that says talk to CCAPs. We're going to do that by moving to our next agenda item. This is not your former ED's process. I mentioned earlier that this program's been in place since 1993. That's 30 years of programming. And over time, there have been a variety of adjustments and updates, just like I hope you can say about the programs and services that operate in your own organization, right? You see a sampling of some of those updates that have happened in the CCAP program here on the screen, right? They include putting new topics into the body of knowledge and taking certain topics out of the body of knowledge. We've done the same with the fictional New Hope case study, the fictional community action agency that we use in the examination process. We've abandoned paper and pencil exams in favor of a more modern approach and accessible online process. And over the time, there have been adjustments to a number of the questions asked on the exam and the type of questions that we ask on the exam. All the while, the rigor and accountability of the credentialing process has remained firmly intact, while processes have evolved to reflect the nature of our work, the nature of our network, and the needs of building the Community Action Network. So over the past 2 years, the CCAP Commission has surveyed the network. They've researched implications of what we all know is a new and different generation of leaders coming into community action. And they've looked more closely at the evolution occurring in the professional certification arena. And all of that work's accumulated in various updates to the processes of becoming a certified community action professional. And that's why we put an asterisk beside the tip, talk to CCAPs. Now, by virtue of you being here on this webinar today, you're receiving the most up-to-date information about the process of becoming a CCAP, the most up-to-date information. There are CCAPs in the field who haven't yet heard what you're hearing. So while drawing on the experience and wisdom of current CCAPs can really be extremely helpful as you prepare for certification, it's important to keep in mind that not everyone will be as up to date on the process as you are. And that is why I say this is not your former ED's certification process. So far, we have covered, so you want to be a CCAP. What are some of the things that you should do as you think about that and prepare for that process? And being careful when you do talk to other CCAPs to know that you understand the process as it is today. So now we're going to shift gears into the details, and specifically to start with what you need to know about enrolling as a CCAP candidate. The first step that the CCAP Commission has taken towards increasing participation and modernizing the CCAP program was to create a streamlined and easy online enrollment process. So all of the enrollments are processed using NCAP's internet-based member portal. And what you see on the screen now is a snapshot of how the member portal looks when you first reach the login page. The member portal is a database, so you will need to set up an individual account to log in when you want to access CCAP or any other resource or option on the portal. Now, setting up an account is super easy. You'll find an option to log in or create an account right on the top of that portal homepage. It's not here right now because I covered it up with my PowerPoint slide title, but it's right up at the top of the page that you're seeing here. Now, if you don't know how to get to the homepage or the portal, don't worry. We have got you covered in about 1 million different ways. You're going to find links to the portal posted on NCAP's web pages. They are frequently appear in the NCAP e-news and in emails about special events or webinars, etc. The easiest way to get to the portal, if you don't already have it bookmarked in your browser, is to visit the NCAP website. and that is simply communityactionpartnership.com. You're going to click on Programs and Initiatives, and then select CCAP from the list. Once you're on the CCAP page, you will see an option for enrollment with a link that takes you straight to the member portal. So however you look at it, we make it really simple for you to get to the member portal. Notice on the screen that we're looking at right now that there is a drop-down menu called How-To Guides. It's in white letters in the blue section. You are highly recommended to use those how-to guides. Of particular note, for this group, there is a how to apply for certification, as well as one on how to renew your certification. So I wanted to point those out to you. When you're ready to enroll, you will head to the CCAP credential menu, also in white in the blue area. And that's what you see the drop down for that I have on this particular screen. Under that drop down menu, you will select Apply for Certification. You'll read through the instructions on the welcome screen. And after that, you come to a page that asks you to update your contact information in the database. Let me show you what that looks like. Okay. So as you look at this slide, notice that on the left-hand side, there's a gray box with a series of numbered steps. Those are the steps that you will follow to complete your application. Really simple, 7 steps. There's actually only 6 because one of them is for folks that are not in the Community Action Network right now. You'll be able to tell when you've completed a step because a green check mark will appear beside each of the steps, like it does on instructions right now. Okay. One more small note about this particular screen. Obviously, I've taken out someone's personal information, but around the middle, right above employer information, you'll see a request for a mobile phone number and then a request about whether or not we can send you text messages. I wanted to address that with you real quick. We are asking CCAP candidates to supply us with that mobile number in addition to a work phone, and if it's okay for us to send you text messages. And there are 2 reasons why we're asking for that information. Sometimes emails from our program get caught in spam filters. And if we have a really important piece of information for you as a candidate or you as a CCAP that we know you won't want to miss, we may need to send a group text in addition to an email. That would be extremely rare and only for really important circumstances. And then the second reason, once you become certified, you'll have the opportunity to renew your credential every 4 years. And if during that 4-year period you switch positions or change emails or even leave the network, we'd like to have a way to connect with you. And most of the time what happens is we just get a rejection from the email address that's on file and don't have a way to find out where a CCAP is in the network or after they've left the network, unless this contact information in the portal is kept up to date. And you know, you will have worked really hard to earn the credential. So we want to make sure you have opportunities to keep it valid and current. So that's why we're asking for your mobile phone and your permission to text you. I promise it is not to sell your information and have a fundraiser for the CCAP program. All right, after updating your contact information, which you can tell it's already going to be entered in there for you, all you have to do is look at it, correct anything that's incorrect or needs updated. You are going to be asked to verify your employer type. There are employers within the network that are eligible for employees to participate in the CCAP program. And that's going to be community action agencies or CSBG eligible entities, delegates or subgrantees of community action agencies, state and national community action network associations, and then government employees at state or federal level agencies, that have strong ties to the network. And that would be, for example, OCS or HHS or DOE. So if you work at an eligible type employer, you will move to step 5, recommendations supporting your candidacy. If an applicant does not indicate they work for an eligible employer type, you'll see that step 4 takes them on a different journey, most likely leading to an ineligibility message, but that's not an important detail for us to focus on today. So you'll update your contact information and verify your employment eligibility. You'll skip over step 4, go into step 5, recommendations. Here you'll enter the contact information for 3 references. Those are going to be people who will attest to supporting you as an individual and a professional deserving of the opportunity to earn the CCAP credential. You'll be asked to enter their name, title, email address, and phone number for each of your 3 recommenders. Now, 1 recommendation has to come from your CEO or executive director at your place of employment. And if you are the CEO or the executive director, then that recommendation must be from your current board chair. The other 2 recommendations are from professional colleagues that are familiar with your work and are folks that you choose. So you'll see that rather than uploading an actual recommendation letter, all the applicant needs to do is enter the contact information for each reference. And here's what happens. When you formally submit this application, you push the process and pay button. The member portal sends an email to each of your references along with a clickable link to a page where they can verify how they know you, and then they can write a statement right in that screen regarding why they're supporting you in earning the CCAP credential. All they have to do is click that link, fill in the blanks, and push submit. And their recommendation is then automatically attached to your CCAP application in your record. They don't have to have a membership login or a portal login. They simply follow the link on the email that they receive. Candidates have always been required to submit a signed copy of the Community Action Code of Ethics, and that's still the case with the online application. Today, though, applicants are agreeing to and initialing each ethic as they appear on the screen. So you'll see from this example, there is the I agree button, which must be checked. And then there is the initial box, which must have information entered into it before it will let you go to the next step in the application process. And also keep in mind, the ethics have been updated. So if you haven't participated in a webinar or a conference session about the refreshed code of ethics, you're going to want to do that definitely if you plan to or have already enrolled as a CCAP candidate. And even if you aren't, it's important for us all to know the Community Action Code of Ethics. So after agreeing to and initialing each ethic, we get to a screen that asks you to process and pay. And this is going to be very similar to many on-roll or online checkout and payment processes that you've already encountered. The fee can be processed online at the time of the application with a credit card, or you can choose a pay later option and be emailed an invoice for payment by check through your agency, whichever one works for you. There has been an update that you need to know about regarding simplifying the CCAP enrollment structure. It used to be sort of a confusing rocket science sort of journey to figure out when you were enrolling more than one person what the price would be. But you can see in the blue box, the enrollment fee has stayed the same. It's $600 per candidate. When you're enrolling groups of candidates from the same organization, every 4th enrollment is free. So $600 per person. You enroll 3 candidates, that's going to be $1,800, for example, and you can enroll a 4th person for free. If you enrolled 7 people, you'd get your 4th person and your 8th person for free. So be aware that your application is not considered complete until payment's been received at NCAP. When you complete that checkout screen, the member portal sends an automatic email thanking you for your purchase, confirming receipt of your application, and letting you know if a balance is due on your account. Now, as a reminder, those automatic email notices will oftentimes be stopped by spam. So please don't panic if you have not received your notice, okay? If you log into the member portal and you see that your application is pending, there's no reason to worry. Your application has been received. If you log into the member portal and you see that your CCAP application is listed as in draft form, excuse me, it means that the full process hasn't yet been completed and your application has not been formally submitted. So in that case, you're going to return to your application and complete the process so that all of your boxes have that green check mark and you have gone through the process and pay piece. Now, we at NCAP will be periodically checking all of the submitted pending applications to ensure that payments have been received and to ensure that all 3 of your recommendations or references have also been submitted. We will resend those recommendation references as we enter October, close to the application deadline. We'll resend to your references as we notice that they haven't come in. As we get closer to October, if there is still a payment due, or your references haven't responded, we'll be reaching out to you specifically to let you know that there's a step that hasn't been completed yet. Otherwise, if you're seeing your application is pending in the system, you're good to go. No need to worry about it. And if you simply can't help yourself and you need to quell any anxiety you have about the status of your application, just call or email us. We are at CCAP at communityactionpartnership.com. And I always like to emphasize the .com piece because we live in a .org world as nonprofit community action folks most of the time. And so that is CCAP at communityactionpartnership.com. And either Mitzi or I will be happy to check out your application status and get back to you as soon as possible. So one word of caution before we leave the application process. That member portal is like most online databases. It takes a little bit of patience when you move from one step to the next. So when you push a send or a submit or a next button, please give the system a little time to process that command and avoid pushing that button multiple times. It's not going to catch on fire if you do or destroy your application, but it will do weird things like lock you out of the system or produce multiple copies of your application. So that's also true of saving your application as a draft and coming back in. If you save it as a draft and then immediately try to return to the draft, it's likely the system will not yet have processed your original draft. And in that case, it's going to think you need to start from the beginning of the application process, and you'll end up again with multiple applications on file. So the key there is patience, grasshopper, patience. All right, moving on. Another important update that you need to be aware of is that the Commission has introduced a CCAP enrollment period. That period opens each July 1st, closes each October 31st. A great way to remember that is that the CCAP enrollment period goes from fireworks to pumpkins, July through October each year. So a candidate who wants to start the examination process, say in 2024, will need to be fully enrolled by October 31st of 2023. So let's recap. You have a streamlined online enrollment in which the application verifies your eligibility, collects your required references, and serves as the primary payment method. And now there's an annual enrollment period. When your application shows up online as pending and you haven't heard from the CCAP office to say that anything's outstanding on your application, it's okay. You can relax. All right, let's move forward. That's your enrollment process. It took me a little while to get through the explanation, but I promise you, when you sit down to do it, it is a 5 to 10 minute process, lickety split. We processed applications online at NCAP's annual convention last month, right on site, and folks were there for 10 minutes sitting in the chair. It does not take long at all. But once you've enrolled, it will be 6 to 9 months before you have the opportunity to start the examination process. So you have 6 to 9 months to study, work on your learning plan, make those time commitments, figure out processes for your participation in the exam processes. Remember, you're the one that designs your journey. So your experience as a CCAP candidate will be what you put into it during that 6 to 9 months or more. Let's move forward to what you can expect after the enrollment process. The next formal step after you've enrolled is the examination process. In 2024 and beyond, once an application is timely filed, a candidate is considered eligible for the exam process. Now, for some of you, that sounds perfectly normal. You enroll as a candidate, then you take the exam. Of course, that makes sense. Others of you might be feeling a little confused at the moment because this is different than what you've heard or previously experienced. So let me reiterate. In 2024 and beyond, once an application is timely filed during the fireworks to pumpkins period, there's a 6 to 9 month period for preparation, and the next step is participation in the examination process. There are no other prerequisites, no additional forms, no points to gather and submit. Okay, go from enrollment to exam. Beginning in 2024, there is a 2-step examination process. Okay. We're moving from enrollment to exam, and there is a 2-step examination process. I know this is a lot to take in, so stay with me as we explore the concepts, and I promise it will make sense in the end. One of these steps is the proctored examination, right? It's a proctored test. It's held annually on the 3rd Wednesday in April. It's online. It's divided into 2 sections. There are 40 objective questions and 4 essays. Candidates are given up to 4 hours total to complete the test, and it covers topics from the community action body of knowledge. A study guide for the exam is released in November for each year. So aside from the dates that the exam is held and when the study guide is released, this is the proctored examination process that you'll find current CCAPs are familiar with. Same type of examination process. Okay. Now let's look at the second step in the examination process. It also includes an assignment that is done independently, it's not proctored, in which a candidate reviews a specific topic and answers questions about that topic. Okay. The assignment focuses on assessing the candidate's ability to grasp and apply knowledge about present-day theory or strategy or approach to combating poverty. And it also is rooted in community actions, vision, and values. So if you want to, you can think of this as the B and E part of the exam because it targets section B of the body of knowledge, vision and values of community action, and section E, theories and strategies for poverty in America. So sections B and E of the body of knowledge are really focused on in this independent assignment. Now, each year the CCAP Commission selects a topic and curates resources on that topic to create an abbreviated examination study guide specifically for this independent assignment. So there's a study guide for the proctored examination and a special study guide for the independent assignment. All candidates participating in a year in this part of the exam process will be writing about the same topic. There's just one nationwide topic. And candidates are required then to bring their own opinions, ideas, and experiences to the work. The topic and the study guide for the topic will be released in May. And the assignment, which consists of 2 questions, each completed in 250 to 750 words, is due at the end of May. Okay. So with 2 examination events, it follows that to become a CCAP, you need to successfully pass both examination events. So to become certified, a candidate needs to participate in the proctored examination and the independent assignment during their 3-year candidacy and must successfully pass both events during that candidacy. There's one more important nuance that I want you to keep in mind. The candidate gets to select the order and timing of the processes. So the candidate, you as the candidate, gets to decide, do I do the online proctored exam first and the independent assignment second? Do I do the independent assignment first and wait until the next year to do my online proctored exam? This is where you get the flexibility of designing the process that works best for you and your schedule. Let's play with this idea just a little bit. And let me give you some examples of how that can work out. This is Jonathan on my screen here. He's a newly enrolled CCAP candidate. And Jonathan is eager to complete his certification in just 1 year, if he can. So he enrolled before October 31, and he's decided to follow the process in the order that it happens. He'll sit for the proctored exam in April, and then participate in the independent topic-based assignment in May. Okay, so he's just going to go with the flow as it's presented. Kira, however, she's also a new candidate, and she decides that she wants to spend as much time as she can to get to study for what might be on that proctored exam. And she feels really comfortable with her writing skills. So she decides that she wants to complete the process that she's most comfortable with first by doing the independent assignment in May and then waiting until the next year to do her online exam. So you start to see how that flexibility of order and timing begins to look different for different candidates. I have one more example to show you. This is Noah. Now, during Noah's first year as a candidate, he started with the independent assignment, but did not score well enough to actually pass that assignment. So now in his second year, he's gearing up to take the proctored exam in April, and he's going to give the independent assignment a second try in May. All right, 3 candidates, 3 different journeys with different timing that works best for them. So to recap, your CCAP program has a streamlined enrollment process. Enrollment happens July 1 through October 31. Once you're enrolled, there's a period of time, but the next step is examination. There's a two-step exam process. One is proctored, one's an independent assignment. You get to select the order and timing of the exam processes and how you take them. And we rely on you to successfully pass both of those into your 3-year candidacy. Let me show you this in a different way. Here's how the process looks in the form of a flow chart. Now, if you follow up to the upper left-hand corner, you see enrollment, and that's where we start. We go to the candidate deciding when and in what order they will complete the 2 steps of the CCAP examination process. Candidate selects the time the process that's right for them. Once the candidate has 1 step of the exam process complete, they go back up to the top and complete the second examination requirement. And if the candidate isn't successful on their first attempt, it's okay. They simply try that examination step again during their 3-year candidacy. But then towards the bottom, there's a green arrow pointing to the right. When the candidate completes both steps, that leads to earning the CCAP credential, a chance to walk across the stage during NCAP's annual awards gala, a lapel pin, a digital badge, a polo shirt, and all the fame and fortune that follows. Now, a quick note about those who may already be candidates in the program, but have not yet set for the exam, or those who are coming back to try the exam for a second time. If you are already a CCAP candidate that has participated in submitting assignments or sitting for the exam, you might want to take a screenshot or photo of this next slide. So I want to address that for you. If you were waiting to gain additional points on your candidate data form, you don't have to worry about that. You are now eligible to start the 2-step exam process. If you were working on an executive skills portfolio, you are also now eligible to start the 2-step exam process. So if you were engaged in your CDF or ESP processes, you do not have to continue that. You will move into the 2-step exam process. Now, if you've already submitted an executive skills portfolio and received a minimum score of 300, you have the opportunity to sit for the online proctored exam, but you will not have to sit for the independent assignment because you've already completed and received a passing score on an executive skills portfolio. So this is the transition for current candidates that may be in the middle of the process. All right, I want to go back to the flow chart one more time and bring that into focus, because not only does it show us the process for certification, this flow chart highlights those issues that I just reviewed for current candidates. And this flow chart, along with a 2024 calendar of CCAP program dates and a review of all the enrollment and exam processes that I've talked about here, are in a new CCAP candidacy guide. So that will lead us into the next part of our agenda, resources. The CCAP candidacy guide is available, will be available on the CCAP pages of NCAP's website, hopefully earlier, but by next Monday. Okay. So this guide will be there for download and review. Now here's a sample of what you will find in the guide. All right, here's the 2023-2024 calendar of important events and what it looks like in the guide. An important point to revisit today is that enrollment for those wanting to participate in the examination events in 2024 need to have your application submitted and paid for this year. Okay. If you're interested in purchasing a group subscription for enrollments, drop me an email or give me a call soon, and I'll be more than happy to talk to you about how that process has transitioned and is working now. So whether you're making an application on your own or planning to enroll as part of a group, we want to have those applications in by pumpkins, October 31st. And the next opportunity to enroll after that will be when the enrollment period starts July 1 of 2024. Also, in the candidacy guide, there will be a glossary of terms, something extremely helpful for folks who are not as familiar with some of the language that we have codified for ourselves in administrating the CCAP program. And then here I have for you a list of resources, that candidacy guide that will be up by Monday, if not sooner. The CCAP webpage is available through the Community Action Partnership webpage. We also have CCAP commissioners. You'll find their names listed on our webpage. I know that Commissioner McCann is with us today, and he has made a commitment to reach out to every new applicant and make sure that you have information about the possibility of joining a study group. So you can expect, if you're a new applicant, to hear from Commissioner McCann. And then Mitzi and I are here. We love helping all of our CCAPs and our new candidates through the processes and questions. So please feel free to reach out to us at CCAP@communityactionpartnership.com. So Mitzi, that concludes the overview of our enrollment and examination processes. And we've got just about 4 minutes here left for questions, which I know isn't a really long time, but Mitzi, has anything popped up in the chat screen that you feel like we should discuss and maybe try to address?
See here. Yes, there was a question about Matthew Hinkle. Can we still register through the state partnership for the group discount?
Yes, Matt, definitely. We do have that group process set up, and happy to talk to state association directors, or even agencies can purchase group enrollments. So they just need to be coming from a state association, everybody in the same state, or from a community action agency, everybody in that group enrollment from that same community action agency. Be happy to explain how that works. Sure.
Okay. And Nicole Caron, can you go over how to get the discount code for your association paying for your application?
Yes. So, what happens when an association or an agency purchases a group subscription? Let's say that you want to purchase for 8 candidates. We will there's a checkout page for that on the CCAP application process, and it just takes you directly to the payment. And we will then reach out to the purchaser with a code. And if you've purchased 8 enrollments, that code will be specific to your group. It will be usable 8 times, and it will expire 12 months from the date of purchase. So you will get your code, Nicole, from the purchaser of your group package. It will come from either your state association coordinator or the person coordinating that in your agency. And then when candidates who are using those enrollments log in to file their enrollment, when you get to the purchase process and pay screen, you will enter that code where it says enter a discount code, and you will not be charged because it's already been paid through the group purchase. I hope that answers your question.
Hi, Tani. We got Jessica Fleming. My internet is faltering. Was there a comment stating there is no longer a point of submission for CCAP?
Yes, I did say that when you enroll, rather than building up points on a CDF or an ESP, candidates are going straight into the two-step examination process. So there are no more counting of points that were part of the process previously. Yes.
Okay, and Teresa Land with a question of what if I have completed everything under the old program except take the test?
Mm-hmm. So Teresa, if your ESP, and it must have if you were eligible to take the test, if your ESP scored at 300 or above and you had eligibility for the test, all you have to do is take the test as long as your candidacy is still in effect. Now, if that was 6 years ago and you managed to get ready for the test, but your candidacy has expired, you would have to re-enroll and pay a new enrollment fee. But even then, you would be eligible to sit just for the test, the proctored exam.
Okay, and Angela Lambert, how long do you have to complete the independent assignment?
Good question, Angela. We'll be releasing that in mid-May. And the plan for that the commission has right now is that would be about a 2-week period. So hopefully what's going to happen there is that folks will be planning for that, marking some time on the calendar, and it would be 2 weeks to think about that topic and answer the 2 questions that are a part of that independent exam. And those 2 questions, minimum of 250 words, maximum of 750. So it's not asking anyone to write a 10-page paper. It is just answering the 2 questions in that time frame.
Okay, Christina Kristen, if one is not successful passing one or both exams within the 3-year candidacy period, what are the next steps?
The next steps would be to re-enroll, purchase a new enrollment for a new 3-year period. And if you were successful passing one of the steps in your previous candidacy, the commission will honor that and you will just need to pass the second step. But you would need to re-enroll and pay a new enrollment fee. And there is a statute of limitations on that. If your enrollment was 10 years ago and let's say you passed one of the steps but not the other, this would be in the future. The commission would need to look at that because they probably wouldn't recognize something from that long ago. But from a previous 3-year candidacy, for sure.
Okay, Tina Darlin, I work for a state agency and would like to get my CCAP, but I did not see state agency as a selection in the employer section. What would I select?
Tina, you have a very keen eye. One of the things that I plan to do this afternoon is go in and update all of those employment options, including to make sure that it's clear which box to select if you work for a government entity. Thank you for asking that.
Okay, Millie Rodriguez, what was involved again in the independent assignment? It was 4 to 5 prompts. Do you provide answers to all?
Millie, thank you for that. So the 4 to 5 prompts was one of the small pieces that was originally on this presentation. And prior to coming in here, I should have changed that because it is 2 questions. It is 2 prompts. And so the topic will come out. You will know what the questions are. You'll have that time frame of about 2 weeks to read the study guide, get familiar if you need to with the topic, answer those 2 questions, and then the commission also encourages you to take the time that you have to maybe have someone else read that for you so that you're turning in your absolute best representation of your community action work, and in those 2 questions that you're responding to. So just 2 questions, and those questions focus on relating that topic to the vision and values of community action, and then providing by example how that topic can be made real on the ground in community action through service delivery and or advocacy. That will be the focus that those 2 questions will take.
Okay, Tani, we have 2 more questions. Lori Schwartz, will there be a separate training on renewing?
Hi, Lori. Yes. Obviously didn't have time to get to that today, but there are some updates to the renewal process. And I do plan to put out a webinar for that if we weren't able to get to it today. So those changes are pretty simple, but we do want to make sure everybody's aware of them. And they'll be posted on our website as well.
Okay, the second, and we just had a third question pop in. Larissa Anders, can DOE and TNTA funds be used to pay for CCAP enrollment?
Good question, Larissa. That depends on your grant contract. We do not have restrictions on how you pay for your CCAP enrollment. That would be between your agency and the funder that would be providing those resources, but definitely something that we encourage every candidate and every agency to verify that professional development enrollment in CCAP would be an allowable expense under the funds that you use it to pay for.
Okay, and our last question is from Missy Ranland. On average, how much time do candidates spend preparing for the exam? I understand candidates are allotted 6 to 9 months, but I am interested to know an approximate of preparation time in perhaps hours. I would like to know how much time I will need to commit outside of my work schedule to become a CCAP.
Again, another really good question. And I wish I had something specific to answer for you, but I am going to say to you that it depends on the candidate. It depends on what they put into it. We have those volunteer study groups that will start meeting in September and October around the nation. Those are independent study groups. It's not something that NCAP puts together. So they follow different schedules and different methods of learning. But those study groups meet monthly. They used to meet monthly all the way up until June, which was when the exam was offered. Other folks take, couple of weekends to read through the study guide and they feel comfortable. So it really does depend on what you would put into it. I'm going to ask Charles if you would like to unmute and say anything about that.
Well, I think you're right, Tony. It depends on the individual. First of all, yes, absolutely. There's going to be a time commitment to study. Going to have to study. Now, how much time? And I think another piece of it is when you talk with your executive director, one of the things to talk about is how much of this study can be on the clock and how much of it needs to be at home. CCAP's a benefit to individual, also to agency. That's a local issue, but how much time there? I can't tell you in hours, how much time. I think some people will tell you that it was hours and hours. Other people will do it in less. My suggestion would be, if you know other CCAPs in your state or in your agency, ask them. They're the ones that have done it and maybe have done it recently and perhaps could give you a little bit better insight into what you're getting yourself into in terms of time commitment to study. But absolutely, it is going to take study. I don't think I'd want to go into the exam not having studied.
Thank you, Charles. Mitzi, is there anything else out there or folks that are online that you want us to try to address before we close out today?
Yes, I do. We had a great question come in from Teresa Chandler. Several of our agency employees will be enrolling. How do we enroll?
Okay, so Teresa, if your agency is planning to purchase enrollments for a group, then you will log on to the member portal, and right at the welcome screen will be the opportunity to purchase a group package. If you're enrolling as an individual, you go straight to the enrollment as an individual. But if you want to purchase a group, you'll go straight to purchasing the group package. And you don't, and then we will send you a code so that each person that you're enrolling from your organization, they will go fill out an individual application, but when it comes time to pay, they will use the code that you've given them for your group, and they will not be charged. Those codes will have to be used within 12 months of the date of purchase. So if you think about that just for a moment, group purchasers, if I have resources that I spend in August or October, let's say October, to purchase 15 enrollments, I could fill some of those enrollments in October of this year, and I could fill some of those enrollments between July and my October purchase date of the next year. Right, so you don't have to use all of your group enrollment slots in the same necessarily July to October timeframe that you purchase them in. They could move over to the next enrollment period. I hope that made sense. It was a little fuzzy coming out of my brain.
We've had two more questions. Nicole Popejoy asked, can anyone enroll or are there requirements?
Nicole, good question. The requirements are that you enroll in that July to October timeframe and that you are employed at the time of your enrollment at one of the eligible employers. And then the enrollment fee is paid. You would also need to complete that application. So you're going to commit to the community action ethics. And then you'll have to have those 3 references submitted in support of your application. But other than filling out that application and filling it out and paying for it in the enrollment time frame, there are no other prerequisites.
I'd like to thank everyone for their questions today. We have one last question from Elizabeth Amelander. How long is a certification good for?
Thanks, Elizabeth. I don't believe I addressed that. Your certification is good for 4 years. So once you become certified, you are a valid CCAP for the next 4 years. And then at some point during that 4th year, you would renew your certification for another 4-year period. All right, Mitzi, are we good?
I think we are.
You all had amazing questions. Thank you so much for joining us today. As Mitzi noted earlier, this session was recorded, so we will get that up on the CCAP or the NCAP website in one of the resources as soon as possible, so you can rewatch if you need to or share it with others. Remember that October 31 enrollment timeframe is coming up. Happy to supply you with information about group enrollments. Just reach out to me. And otherwise, I expect to see dozens and dozens of new applications coming in. This is your year. You want to walk across the stage for our 60th anniversary. You can do it. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.